Today on The Real Fan Review, we get you guys ready for X-Men Dark Phoenix, and we go over the latest trailers and movie news. Welcome to The Real Fan Review. What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? It's Hav here, one of your hosts from The Real Fan Review. If it's your first time with us, we thank you as always for checking us out. And if you're coming back, thank you again for coming back to our conversation that we have for every week. And we always want to thank you guys because we noticed the subscribers are going up, listeners are going up, so we thank you for that. And if you guys want to send us a question or a suggestion for something for us to talk about regarding these movies that we love and love to watch, just send us an email or go to our website, therealfanreview.com. Our email is therealfanreview@gmail.com. And you can reach us also on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. And let's just get this podcast going today. We got the original four back, the Fantastic Four.
Woohoo! All right.
Yeah, man. So it's good to see everybody back. So, always let's introduce everybody. I got my man Sanj to the right.
Hello, everyone. As always, a pleasure to be with you.
We got the man in the chair, Al, here.
What's going on, everybody?
And back after a 3-week hiatus. My man.
On. And gallons of Pepto-Bismol.
We got my brother B back on the mic.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
It's been a minute, Bree.
Oh, gosh. Too long. Way too long.
Yeah, man. It's all right, man. We missed you. Glad to have you back.
I think one of the greatest revelations of the last 3 weeks of that, Hob figured out he can do sound.
Somewhat.
I'm out of a job.
B's on the bubble. Better have some podcast gold tonight.
Yeah, man. Look, like the last couple of weeks, man, there's been a couple of times where we and Sanj look at each other like, where's Al? And then we'll have a sound issue for an hour. Where's B? So it's been crazy, man. But it's good to have all four of us back, man. But yeah, man. This week, man, we got the a couple things going on. We got the X-Men Dark Phoenix coming out this week. We had a couple trailers come out last week. Just nothing too much. I think 2 or 3 trailers that we saw come out. And I just wanted to see, are you guys down to see this X-Men Dark Phoenix? Or
I'm definitely down to see it because the trailers for the movie itself look really good, and the movie looks like it might have a really great story to go with it finally. But I want to see how it fits into the rest of the X-Men universe because I've said this before. I think Logan ruined it.
Yeah,
with
said
them
that before regarding
bringing out the ending of the story, of the whole story, before this part of it.
Yeah.
And they kind of did a Dark Phoenix story already.
Exactly.
So, we'll see what happens, But I'm still excited to see it because it's an X-Men movie. It's a superhero movie. And it actually does look like it's going to be good.
Now, knowing that this is the last one, does that affect the way you think about seeing this movie?
Absolutely, it does. Because, X-Men got the Marvel Universe jump-started as
really
well.
Did, yeah.
And not necessarily the cinematic universe or the MCU, but
just the comic book.
Just the comic book movies.
Genre, yeah.
They picked a big name team, to bring out. And honestly, the first few X-Men movies felt more like Wolverine movies, with the X-Men on the side. It's like Gladys Knight and the Pips. They were definitely the Pips, but because the stories were very Wolverine centric.
Yeah, absolutely. So they made him the star of it.
Which was funny was actually Disney. They started doing a lot of the Marvel cartoons after the first 2 X-Men. They did. At WB, they did an X-Men cartoon, but at Disney, they did Wolverine and the X-Men after these movies that came out because the movies had felt like Wolverine and the X-Men anyway. So they were like, well,
I remember seeing those cartoons like that, yeah.
Remember how when we were growing up, we had that great X-Men cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the one on Channel 5.
Saturday, yeah, that was...
Yeah.
And they had great storytelling in that. I remember there was...
they even did the Dark Phoenix in that.
They did the Dark Phoenix in that.
Twice.
They had, and they had some real good story between between Professor X and Magneto as well.
Especially in the Savage Lands.
Yeah, yes, remember? And yes, that's exactly the episode that I'm talking about. Yep. And I just thought they expanded on their story really well and really nicely in that cartoon.
Yeah. What about the rest of you fellas? You guys looking forward to this movie?
I honestly, I think I said this before as well. The trailers looks so good that I don't know if the movie's gonna match up to it. I mean, let's take in part Godzilla.
Right.
You know, the trailers were so poetic and so beautiful, and I feel like the end result of that isn't what the trailers alluded to. You know, and we could take the reverse with what I said with Aladdin. I thought the marketing for Aladdin was terrible.
You're not the only one.
That told me that movie was going to be horrendous. I saw it and I loved it.
Oh wow.
I
All right.
absolutely loved
We'll
Aladdin.
get into that then for sure.
So I'm hoping that this movie is a home run for the X-Men because it's their last go and they're standalone before they join the Disney. So I'm hoping it's good. You know, I've heard some news that we'll talk about later in regards to the X-Men movies. But I want to see it, and I hope it does really well.
All right. I mean, any chance do you think they pull out all the stops?
They have to.
Wolverine? Any chance? Or he's done?
I don't think
Wolverine.
that,
I don't think any Wolverine. I think, but they're gonna pull out as many stops as they can because they know
It's the last one.
this is
but
it.
they have to. They did reshoots and everything because up until this last trailer, I wasn't even excited. I wasn't excited for this movie. I mean, I was going to go because it was an X-Men movie.
Right.
It was the last one before they do the reboot into the Marvel world. But it wasn't like nothing about the previews was drawing me in at that time. This last
you feel
one
like
did.
you've seen it
Yeah,
before.
yeah. This last one did though. They made it
right.
look
The
like
last
there was
trailer
going to be a
really-
good story,
really
good
looked
action
good.
scenes, and everything. But if they, I don't know what they're going to do because it's over. So there's nothing like to hint at or to say, "Oh, come back for the next one."
That's kind of like I
It's
feel like they
done.
gotta nail this ending, and not even like nail it, like oh my god, but definitely do something where.
So
it's
Hav,
like,
can they
amazing.
nail the ending without Wolverine?
They don't
Your
have to.
opinion.
They're gonna have to, but I'm not.
Yeah, they
I'm not
have
sure.
to, but can like do you see nailing?
I
So
feel
much
like
of this, so much of the story has been Wolverine centric. Can they nail this without Wolverine?
See, I don't know, man, because like think about it. Even the last time they did the
Days of
Dark
Future
Phoenix
Past
story.
as well.
Well, the Dark Phoenix story from the Last Stand, the X-Men 3. You know, the ending of that was cool, but again, it was Wolverine was there, but that movie in total was just a damn mess.
Yeah.
What I think they just have to do is just make a good story. You know, a real good story, because we've seen this one already. They just have to do it better, and they have to make it make sense and have to have everything just come together. I think they might do something special because they know it's the last one. They may bring some of the old cast back, maybe some surprise guests, maybe some surprise mutants that we've never seen before. And you know,
I mean, that's interesting because considering they did that for us already.
right.
With Days of Futures Past, they brought everyone back that we wanted to see. They gave us that gift, and then they changed the timeline, which was another gift for us.
See, I thought
know?
Days of Future Past would have been a great way to end it. If you were going to end it, that was a great movie.
Yeah, that was
And here comes
fantastic.
what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
Boom! Thank you, Sanjay. Segue. So,
Oh, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I'm
no, you actually let in exactly what I wanted.
Okay.
So
All right.
the-
Awesome.
The director of First Class, who was originally on, remember, there was a separate director. He came on to do First Class, and he left after
Matthew
First
Vaughn,
Class.
right?
Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah.
His original plan was to do the First Class movie and then make a sequel to it, continuing with that new group of X-Men. Remember we talked about that? Like, you know, they had this new group and then they killed them off and that was it. I was disappointed. His idea was to continue on with that new group.
Show us the early days. Of
Show
the
us the
Xavier
earlier
Institute
day of that,
movie,
how
yeah.
it grew up, how
And
it built.
Then the split between.
Yep.
Well, they split. They showed that split.
And then Days of Futures Past was supposed to be the third one and to end it. And that was supposed to be it. But the studios loved the idea of Days of Futures Past
Put it
and
out
went
now.
straight into it. And that's why he left. Because he was like, then where are you going to go from there? And the studio was like, we don't care. The studio said, we love that idea. We're going to do it and we'll figure it out. And that's how we got Apocalypse.
Oh wow, the Apocalypse was
So
was
Days of
bad.
Futures Past was supposed to be the end of
That
the
would have been a
X-Men.
perfect.
That would have been the perfect ending, and you just said it like that was it, and that was the original intent, and that's why he left, because the studio was gonna ruin it.
See,
for
the
him.
Apocalypse movie, they hyped up Apocalypse, and they made him feel like
and
a
he's a
Thanos
great
type.
actor
He
too.
became
Yeah.
Ivan Ooze of
Right.
Power Rangers. Like it was crazy.
They
Who was
made
the actor that played him?
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so they made him seem like a Thanos type villain because they had
The previews, yeah,
scenes with him, cut scenes with him at the end of the movies, showing him moving pyramids with his mind and things like that. So, I mean, and then when you got to him, he really wasn't all that. And then the fight scene at the end where they took him down, he wasn't all that. The fight scene wasn't that compelling or anything like that. I don't think I guess I can't expect an Avengers Endgame ending. You know?
Yeah.
But what they did with Apocalypse was just trash.
Yeah, man. I didn't like that one.
Yeah, I agree. I think I went into that one. I think I hyped it up for all of us because I love the Apocalypse storyline with the 4 horsemen and everything, and how that sets up into it. And Apocalypse himself, incredible. You know, especially if you have the Mr. Sinister character along with it, which Matthew Vaughn really wanted Mr. Sinister, and to put a young Logan in the original script, so you would have had a younger Wolverine. But I really hyped up Apocalypse for us, and I was like, that movie let me down so hard.
Yeah, that was a bad one. That's why I think they needed to do Dark Phoenix to not make sure we don't end on that one. You know, but you know, we're definitely gonna do a whole recap on the X-Men universe and the X-Men movies, just to get us all ready and, you know, get the listeners ready for the Dark Phoenix prep.
Recaps.
Yeah, man, that's always fun, man. And honestly, our recaps are the most listened to things that we see on there. Like people. Like,
it's like
our regular shows,
it really is. and I love going down those trips. So like,
it's so weird because like our regular shows where we don't like prep anything, it's just North America, right? The minute we do like a recap of something, I see the people listening in like all the other countries and stuff. It's just so funny. But so let's just get into
Siberia off of, didn't we?
Yeah, we got Malaysia one time.
Nice. Shout out to Malaysia.
Definitely shout out. Can I get
so,
a Moscow? Anyone Moscow?
I don't know.
All right.
We got Moscow? I don't think we got Moscow.
Did we get a Moscow?
Can we get a Moscow?
I know it was like Asia.
Hey, all listeners, can we get a Moscow?
So let's just get this thing going, man. Usually we start off with the trailers that we came out this week, and there was like 2 or 3 trailers that came out that were pretty good. The one that I know that probably touched Al a little bit was the Annabelle Comes Home.
Yeah.
The 3rd Annabelle.
That one looked good.
How the hell does Annabelle get 3 movies before Conjuring?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, it looks like it is a Conjuring / Annabelle movie.
Yeah, it could be. It looks like it takes place right after the movie when they get her.
Yeah, it looks like it takes place at the end of Conjuring 2.
Yeah, but yeah, that one looks good.
Yeah, it does look good. They said they wanted to do a night in the museum in that house.
Yeah, it makes
and it makes the most sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes the most sense.
Dude, that trailer scared the shit out of me, man. The one wait, with the coin is dropped on the floor, and then she picks up the coin.
No, and then when she's in the darkness and the 2 coins come as if they're over somebody's eyes. Oh, forget it.
How you do a jump scare in a commercial, man?
Can't wait for it, man.
It's funny because when you see those trailers, there's always that one person that's like not scared of those things that wants to ruin it for everyone. So they're like, well, let's play with those things in there. Let's go into that door you're not supposed to go into. And they're like, why would you do that?
Or the doll in the locked cabinet. Yeah, that's the one I want to play.
The one that says "Do not open or touch ever." Let's do that one right there. It's so freaking crazy.
I want to know who like goes out there and picks up a doll like that though, like to bring home.
You know what's crazy, dude? That doll, that one in the movie is not the real one, right?
Yeah.
The real one
is a Raggedy Ann doll.
Raggedy Ann doll, which my mom had. And it just freaks me out to think that that's something that's capable to be possessed.
Oh my god! Yeah.
The next trailer that came out, man, during the week was Rambo: Last Blood. Man, I didn't know they were making another Rambo. I guess it got hyped off of Rocky, man. It was like, oh, they still like this.
I thought it was like a fake trailer.
I thought it was a spliced up trailer.
Yeah, I thought it was like one of these fan-made trailers. Like, oh, this is what we want to come out. And I was like, wait,
That's actually Sylvester Stallone. Yeah.
I watched it. I was like, why? Don't do this.
I was looking at it, I was like, is this Home Alone for adults? He's got these like fire tricks and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my
I was like, you need
lord.
to stop.
yeah.
Oh man, and then the last trailer, man, that came out this week was from DC Vertigo, man. That's that outside the line DC. They don't do the Batman. They do the little more adult
Detective series.
Yeah,
and stuff.
man. So they got the kitchen with Tiffany Haddish, Melissa McCarthy, another serious role from Melissa McCarthy, and was it Elizabeth Moss? Was the third person?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that looked pretty good.
It looked incredible.
You know, I like
love
that, man.
You know, and it shows a lot of range from Melissa McCarthy because
Yeah, she's doing a lot of serious roles.
you know,
lately.
it's really tough for a comedian to get off of that comedy role and comedy take and be taken serious, and for her to
Yeah, they
go
typecast
out
you real quick.
you know, and she's doing good from what I'm seeing. You know, that's awesome for her.
But I said this before, and I've seen it where, in general, I've seen great comedians go to those sinister roles very easily.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from the actresses or actors or the comedians or anything, but I really do feel like it's not a far hop, or it's the other side of the coin. Yeah. You know, but I just love it when it's done well.
So, you know, that was for the last trailer. So we're gonna go to like the news of the week that just passed, and one of the things with DC is Ava DuVernay, fantastic director. She's doing New Gods. I have no idea what that is, but I'm pretty sure Brandon can tell me what New Gods is.
New Gods is really interesting because when you think about Apocalypse,
right,
that's where the New Gods kind of come from. Apocalypse, Darkseid, he is basically one of the New Gods, and Granny Goodness and all of those, his son, those are the New Gods in a sense.
So is it kind of like, would you say, I mean, I hate always tying back Marvel into this, but
like the Eternals.
The Eternals.
It is the exact equivalent.
So, I heard it's also a guy that used to be on Marvel who went over to DC and
Kirby.
Kirby.
Yeah.
So it's his mind, his art.
Jack Kirby?
Yep.
And he did the New God. So it's like, is this story going to be like how these superheroes came to be, or is this a separate story?
It's kind of like a separate story, like the same premise with like the Eternals, how they're just these huge overarching beings with powers, and they kind of help make this and that. But the New Gods kind of storyline is basically their war with each other,
right?
You know, like on Apocalypse, and that's really what sets in stone the Darkseid being the ruler of Apocalypse, right. You know. But there is a general war between them, you know. They're kind of factions between them that cause war. You know, with Darkseid's son is actually one of the heroes. So it's just kind of like that family of people going to war with each other and who's trying to come out on top.
Oh wow. Al, I know you and me have like the similar like movie stuff that we've watched when we were younger, and like things that we've read when we were younger. I have no clue about New Gods. You up on that?
Nope. You could name one of them right now.
I know a little bit about like. Oh, I'm sorry, Al.
No, I was just saying you can name one of them right now, like the biggest one. I would have no idea who you were talking about.
No, I know a little bit about like Darkseid. Is it Darkseid or Darkseid?
Darkseid.
Okay, Darkseid. I know a little bit about him. I know that he's the ruler of Apocalypse. I know that Superman and the League of the Justice League have to fight him, and at one point he had even corrupted Supergirl. Yeah, and everything. So I know a little bit, but not anything.
I mean, for me, it's going to be like a clean slate. They can show me whatever, and I'm just going to be like, okay, that's the New Gods.
Yeah.
So this may be what gets them really into that game, where they're bringing out something fresh, that they're not relying on the big names and as the big draw, so that they can really flesh out the story, you know, and hook us.
Yeah, man.
You know,
I'm hoping so, man. And you know, I think Ava DuVernay also just released this movie, or it's like a series, is it, on Netflix? It's about the Central Park 5.
Oh yes,
When They See Us.
When They See Us.
It's a movie. I wanted to watch that.
Absolutely need to see that. I definitely want to see that.
The trailer alone looks incredible.
Yeah.
I started to watch it yesterday with my wife, and we basically had to stop.
It's rough.
It's just because it gets you real quick into how they started in on these kids.
Yeah.
How they started using a dad's history against him to talk him into getting his son to flip. Not even flip, like just make up.
Their confessions were coerced.
Yeah.
Heavily.
Yeah.
And it's funny because knowing how a lot of that stuff is supposed to be done, and you know, and everything was just horrible watching it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you don't want to know that happens, but you know it happens.
It happens every once in a while. Hopefully less than we think, but it's
happens
scary
more
to
than
think
we
that.
think. That's
the problem. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. So, you know, guys, if I could recommend something for everyone to watch, man, at least give it a look. Is that new Ava DuVernay thing on Netflix, man? That seems incredible. And what's the name of it again?
Right?
When They See Us.
When They See Us.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of big actors in it too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that movie needed to be made, man.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that kind of not that specifically doesn't excite me about the DC New Gods movie, but the fact that Ava DuVernay is associated with it, anything she's associated with usually has an incredible story behind it,
Right.
whether it be fact, fiction, historical period piece, or anything. So she's a great storyteller in that sense. Like, she'll look for a good story to tell and then bring it to us and bring her vision to it and make it look real good. So I'm excited for it because of her.
Absolutely. Man. That's pretty much it for the news of the week there, man, and the trailers there. The next segment we usually do is the movies that we've seen this week. And for me, myself, man, I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters. Yeah.
Moving on.
Don't get me wrong,
I did not see it, but Hobbs' facial expression right now says it all. So moving on.
No. Like, visually amazing, stunning, unbelievable. There were pictures that they were showing on the screen that I would put a poster up somewhere, right? But I think I fell asleep for a second. Maybe because it was late, but also because it was a little boring, the story. But Godzilla versus King Ghidorah and Rodan and Mothra and all the other stuff that was going on, man, it was a pretty crazy thing to see. But I don't know, man. If I rank it, man, it's definitely going to be one of those, you don't need to see it right away. You can kind of wait on it kind of thing.
What is it that just that they try to do too much?
Just the story didn't make no goddamn sense, man. There was this lady who lost her son to...
Did the Godzilla story ever make sense?
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, how do you make that make sense, right? But it's just... If they had followed along what was going on in the last Godzilla movie, kind of thing, like these things were just awakening because of radiation, nuclear weapons, detonations that, were happening around the world. Global warming, there you go. If they had kept it to that, no problem. But it was like this lady was purposely wakening up these monsters. So it was just a little weird. And it's just some of the things didn't make sense. And her husband happened to be on the other side as a good guy, where she was the bad guy, or she was working with the bad guys. And this fool acted like he knew everything. He was sitting there telling military people what to do, telling scientists what to do. And it's like, what do you do? And how do you tell all these people what to do and you be right every time? It was just really stupid, and then just a couple of things that happened.
So you're talking about, so he's kind of like Jeff Goldblum in
in Jurassic Park?
No, not in Jurassic Park.
Which
in Independence Day.
Oh yeah, yeah. He just knew everything, and everyone listened to him.
I made this virus on an Apple computer. Plug it in.
and then his father comes in. My son was the only one that was right.
I love Independence Day, man. That's another good one. But yeah, man, I think that's the only thing I got to see this week. It was a little bit busy of a week for me. How about you, Al, man? You saw anything this week?
Finally got to see Us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
So, I liked it. It's funny because I guess I don't know if it's because I went in already hearing that there was a twist, but I kind of already assumed the twist right from the beginning. So right when she goes into the park,
right,
and she sees herself.
Yeah,
and then she came out, and then they show the family upset because she's not. I said, "Oh, that's because
it's not her."
They swapped.
Yeah,
right.
Like in my head, I already I was waiting for. Okay, well, what's the real thing going on? Like,
and that's why I tell you, there's a second twist, because that one's too freaking obvious.
Yeah.
Even though Brandon doesn't agree.
Well, about
the second twist,
the boy, the son.
The son is
no, I
switched.
agree with that, because that's what I read. I went back. I said, okay, what else was everybody else saying about the movie? And I agree with that, because as I was watching it, that was the only thing that really bothered me.
It was there was something with
something
the son.
was off with the son. Like, he couldn't remember how to do his trick. When the father said, "Go get the baseball bat," he goes, "What bat?" And meanwhile, his sister knew what bat and where it was. Meanwhile, I'm assuming the father was playing baseball with him. You know, maybe all of them, but obviously with him too.
But it would take too long to learn how to speak.
And plus, the other son has burn marks.
Would it be too long to speak if the real Adelaide, who speaks English, was there to teach him?
Yeah.
But she didn't.
Ooh,
I see what you say.
Hot take. I got it. First hot take.
Yeah, because she was the only tethered who knew how to speak English.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. Why does she know how to speak English? So that's why I was like.
But then when they have switched, the previous summer.
Right, because the sister was saying something happened the previous summer where he got locked in the closet.
But then they would have said something about the boys, because she would have knew the difference.
Maybe.
And then Adelaide would have said something.
That's where it's like, it's a little
Would he have
iffy.
become that feral that quick?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he was like feral. It wasn't just that he,
Yeah.
See, and then the other one
couldn't
that makes
remember
me
his trick
think,
or whatnot. Like he was.
yeah. The other aspect about that makes me think it was that they did swap the sons, is that they said that the tethered came from a failed experiment to use the tether to control those above the ground, and meanwhile, what we are to assume is the real Jason was able to control his tether. He was the only one that was able to do that.
Right. He's the only one who realized it really fast. So, yeah.
To the point where he stood up and walked backwards to make his tether go into the fire. So if the tether are able to control the ones above ground, then why was the one from above ground?
I think when they switched, supposedly the roles switched, but then that's getting too deep into it. But another reason why you think when you guys were talking about the Jason being burned is because he did know how to do the trick. And that he burned himself.
Oh, okay. I got you.
You see what I'm saying? That he burned himself doing the trick. But who knows? I mean, I would really want to hear
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele say it, man.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele, come down. Come on down.
Yeah, man. So you saw Us, man.
Yeah.
Anything else? Just that one?
Just that.
Yeah, same here for me.
We saw a couple. Like I said, we started to watch when they see us, but then we couldn't finish it.
I hear you, man. There's movies out there like that where it's just like, I can't do this right now, man.
Yeah.
How about you, B, man? I know you've been watching a couple movies here and there.
Oh, a couple movies. I had nothing but time to watch movies. So I watched, oh boy, I tried to keep up with you guys. So I saw Detective Pikachu.
All right.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I saw John Wick 3. Loved it.
Boom.
Absolutely loved it. I saw Aladdin. Now this one
Oh,
got
good.
me.
We can talk about this.
Aladdin really got me because Disney, whoever did marketing for Aladdin, you need to fire them. Those trailers look terrible. They didn't feel like Aladdin.
Right.
Even the colors, and we talked about this before. You know, there are colors that you need to have, especially when you're talking about that Asian culture there in India. You know, you have to have those colors. You have to have that feel.
Just so you know, that the Aladdin story is more. It's all encompassing of like Southeast Asian, Middle Eastern. So, but it's more of a Persian.
I'm sorry.
But there is it's all encompassing because Agrabah is a fictional place. It's not like they said this is the Prince of Persia or something like that. Like Persia would be like Iran, and you would expect a different look and whatnot. But it's supposed to be all encompassing of that culture,
but
or
like
that group of cultures.
But like the trailers were very genie-centric, and I understand why they were
trying to sell the movie.
Trying to sell the movie on the genie and trying to show you that he's something other than Robin Williams and he can still do the character. But it was just like I got none of the culture and none of this. And yes, they sang the songs, and yes, they did this, everything that you would want. But it just didn't feel like Aladdin.
The trailers you're talking about, right?
What? I'm sorry?
The trailers you're talking about?
The trailers. It didn't feel like Aladdin.
Right.
And I said to you guys here in the podcast, I was like, that's going to be trash. I was like, and Will Smith's going to botch that role because from what I'm seeing, it looks terrible.
Yeah, neither Brandon nor I were high on Aladdin from the trailers.
I had nothing but time, so I saw it. And holy moly, it is great.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the singing's fantastic. I heard Jasmine kills it.
Naomi Scott, right? Is her name?
Yeah.
She was incredible.
Isn't she the Yellow Ranger?
Yeah, Pink Ranger.
Pink Ranger?
Pink Ranger, yes.
Okay.
It's always about that Pink Ranger.
Yes.
Always comes back to the Pink Ranger.
She's incredible. The guy who plays Aladdin, what's his name, Menno?
Didn't he sound like Aladdin?
He did.
Like exactly like Aladdin from the...
And who played Aladdin originally?
It was I can't remember the guy's name, but he played DJ's boyfriend on Full House.
Yes.
I remember something Sedgwick? Sam?
Whatever.
I remember Mason said it last week.
Oh, okay.
I forgot what it was.
I was like, it was incredible. The movie and the story, and Will Smith, hands down, applause to you because you made that role your own. I mean, I will say this. I thought the Never Had a Friend Like Me song with the rap different. I didn't like it so much.
Right.
But he didn't go in there to imitate. He went in there and made the role his own. And he did a really great job as the genie.
That's awesome, man.
And I just hands down applaud that story and I applaud Disney for making that movie, but fire whoever did the marketing.
Yeah, because they really didn't sell it. The way you guys have talked about Sanjay was big in this whole movie up last week.
The culture, everything in the movie itself was incredible.
It was, I would say, very respectful to the culture.
Everything that the original Aladdin wasn't.
Yes.
And you know what you said last week it stuck with me. I even told wifey about it. Was the whole thing about the Sultan?
Remember, so B at the end. Remember how the Sultan makes Jasmine the Sultan,
yeah.
so that she can change the law.
Yeah.
Remember the original Aladdin? He changes the law as Sultan to say the princess can marry whoever she wants.
Yes.
Right? She doesn't have to marry a prince. In this one, you see, it was a subtle change, but a big change at the same time. Change, yeah. How did you feel about that? Like,
I thought.
Did you catch it right away, or did you have to do like a second take at it to be like? Wait,
I mean,
what?
the story itself leads into it, and I think the whole Jasmine finding her way thing, because she has this path that she wants, and it's culturally, you can't have this, you can't do this, you can't have that.
Right.
And, you know, for her saying, no, I still want this, this is what
She's
I
like,
want.
I'm the one.
And then her song that they made a new song for that movie called Speechless for her, and it was a beautiful song, number one.
Wow.
And then number two, having her take that role and not just be the princess for Aladdin to fall in love with and to have the happy ending with, that was great. And for her to become the Sultan at the end was even better.
And
awesome.
I also we spoke about this last time. I like that they didn't make the role. They didn't add the gender moniker to Sultan to call her Sultana.
Yeah.
It should you're
She's
Sultan.
just a Sultan. That's it.
You're in charge.
Yeah.
That's it. No offense. So you said you told Wifey what was her take on it?
If I remember correctly, she's just like, I want to see it now.
Okay.
So we just got to make a time to either go see it or that's gonna be
absolutely
a Blu-ray.
worth it.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the movie though was still the magic carpet ride. I didn't think that would go off very well in as live action.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. It was like almost exactly like how it was in the cartoon version, in the animated version, and even with the dolphins and everything.
Yeah.
And they just hit it right. Even the part where like they go down a steep waterfall or something, and she kind of closes her eyes and like they're still singing, and then he's like, "Don't you dare close your eyes!" Like they just hit it.
Yeah.
Just
everything was everything was right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I like this because in the original cartoon, you watch it as a kid, you don't really grasp these things. When he wishes to become a prince, and they give him the outfit, you're always saying to yourself, you've seen this guy's face before. Like, how do you know? Like, how do you not know that's Aladdin?
Right.
And in the movie they explain the genie's magic changes changes the way you look, but you're still who you are on the inside. On the outside, you look different to other people. So, like, that was a nice change and fix.
Listen. For years, Clark Kent got away with some glasses.
With the glasses, Okay. That's what I said. I was just like, you put I don't want to call it a hat. I don't know the appropriate term, but it's just like he had the hat on. Turban? Okay, yeah. It was a turban. And, he had the turban on him, like, now because he has a turban on, he's not a street rat. Like, like, now he's this majestic figure.
Yeah.
So the movie did a really good job of explaining that.
All right, so
that
you know
I've
what?
been
Next
thinking
week, what I'll do is I'll put a turban on and ride in on an elephant. And you tell me if I look different.
Listen.
Whose house is this?
Sanj can't say something like that because he'll actually do the shit.
I will go find an elephant.
Freaking elephant, dude.
It'll be a pygmy elephant. Still be an elephant.
It'll still be an elephant.
They're gonna be like, God. Fuck you and the elephant you rode in on.
Oh, man. So real quick on John Wick 3, man.
John Wick 3. That movie was not what I thought it was going to be. A lot of action. And I think I texted you every scene because I just assumed the action was over. And then it just kept going. I mean, the beginning movie, the first 20 minutes alone was just a continuous action scene.
Yeah, man.
And I thought that was crazy.
It was nuts, man.
I was like, I said it to myself, like, this movie is so unnecessary, but I love it. I was like, I couldn't pause the movie. I didn't want to. I didn't want to turn away because I didn't want to miss one throat punch, the scene right before the stable fight when they're in the Chinese gallery, I believe, and they're just breaking glass and fighting each other with everything in the glass. I'm dying, but I'm loving it.
Yeah,
and it was perfect.
That movie was so freaking awesome, man. Sanj, how about yourself, brother? Did you watch any movies this week?
There was a light week for me on movies because the previous weeks have been very heavy. Like I've been, but this week was a light week for movies. I saw, What Men Want. It with Taraji P. Henson. Mm-hmm. It's basically a remake of What Women Want when Mel Gibson was able to hear women's thoughts.
Yes, I have that on my list of on my Netflix
and
DVD.
I'm gonna preface it by saying I'm a huge Taraji P. Henson fan. Love her work. Love her. Love everything she does.
She's great.
Yeah, this movie was garbage.
Oh,
it was garbage.
And it's coming off.
again, comedy's hard.
Yeah, it really is, man.
It's really hard, and just too much of the movie. She was just like way too over the top and trying way too hard. Listen, there are some funny moments.
It really depended on her, right?
Yeah, and
she had to make it work.
And she had to make it work. Because I mean, the story, there's not much to it. I can hear what men think.
Yeah.
And whatnot. It did have some funny moments. So it's not like altogether horrible, but it just didn't really work. It's not her best work.
I have to contest with Al.
Go for it.
Contest. Okay.
I saw
I demand satisfaction.
I saw Night School a couple days ago, and I loved it. And I remember we were talking about Night School that you had seen, and you were just like, you weren't impressed with it.
I think that was Hob that said that.
Was it? Was it you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's
Contest with Hob.
Oh,
I was cracking up. I love that movie. I thought it was great.
is it because you're a teacher?
Maybe.
Contested.
Round 1. Win.
Yeah, it's funny because I think even Alex was liking it. She's a teacher also, so you kind of just see those things, and you see things that I guess you can associate with more.
Like Soul Chicken, that was great. That cracked me up. I died. He's like, yo, I'm not working at a chicken place, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this is the worst. If on a good day, what was it? If I wake up and I come to work, I can smell cocoa butter and fried chicken all in one whiff. He goes, that's a good day.
Because the strip club was
right across the
street. Cocoa butter and fried chicken.
That's a good day. That was perfect. That was great.
Man, yeah. Yeah, I thought the movie was all right. That was one of mine. Like you don't need to rush to go see it. It's too funny, man. Yeah, man. So I mean, I guess that's it. Those are the movies that we saw this week, and then this week coming up, like I said before, guys, X-Men Dark Phoenix is coming out, and with X-Men Dark Phoenix, just want to make sure everyone knows this is the last Fox Marvel. Well, then again, no, because they're still doing New Mutants, but New Mutants is like its own separate story, and I think they're doing something real. They're not releasing that shit.
They're not doing that.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
That's not coming out. That's a Hulu.
That's gonna be released. I mean, that's gonna be taken off the schedule.
Yeah, man. All right, man. So I mean, this is gonna be the portion where we get you guys ready for this X-Men Dark Phoenix movie, man.
Memory lane.
We're gonna do the memory lane, the recap. So let's get it going, man. First, we're gonna start off with that X-Men 2000. X-Men 2000. The X-Men that came out in 2000.
X-Men 2000. Yeah, you did well. Yeah,
at least you didn't call it Wolverine 1,
I would have. And that's why I'm not in charge.
So, listen, that X-Men came out, and that was around the time. This is before the MCU. And this is like, right after Blade and all that stuff like that.
Blade, right before Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, and this thing kind of set things off because it was pretty good. I remember watching it and thinking this was awesome.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Go for it. No, go for it.
I felt almost as excited about the first time Wolverine's claws
came out.
When he was doing the fight in the cage.
Yeah.
And whatnot. I was almost as excited for that as I was about Optimus Prime.
Yeah, man, that movie was pretty awesome. Man, the beginning of that movie was the Magneto as a child, or as maybe like a teenager kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think he was like 12. He wasn't yet a teenager, but he had him going off to the concentration camp.
That was Auschwitz, right?
Auschwitz, yeah, that was rough.
Woo, dude, when he was being taken away from his parents, and you saw him reach out, he was being held back by the officers. I thought that was one of the most like emotional, awesome scenes to get you started into this universe. I mean, that was so believable. And then you saw the power he had in just that little second, because there was like 5 or 6 guys on him, and he was still holding on to the gate
right?
From his powers. And I mean, that's how you start off X-Men.
Yeah, that was a great way to start.
I mean, that's just amazing, man. And I mean, what about you guys? What did you guys think about the X-Men, the first one?
I thought it had great promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that one, we got introduced to pretty much the original X-Men. It was
got
Cyclops,
introduced to Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Beast. No,
Beast wasn't in that.
We didn't get Beast till first class.
No, the Last Stand.
Last Stand.
Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer, right?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, the first one, I mean,
Oh yeah, Jean Grey, Scott. Okay.
The 90s cast of the X-Men, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that one, I believe what was going on was, it looked like Magneto was up to something. Like he was trying to capture one of the X-Men, and it felt like he was going after Wolverine.
No, it looked like he was trying to capture Wolverine.
Well, Senator Kelly was putting in the legislation against the mutants, and
right,
you know, and Magneto was just like, he was just like, you're gonna let these people go against us, Charles? They're start a revolution against us. He was like, so what side are you gonna be on? And that's when they met up. That was the train station, right?
Yeah. The train station, or like it was actually at the either the courthouse or something, because they were in the back in the hallway where they kind of like just bumped into each other.
And that's where that was just like, where are we gonna be, Charles? What side are you gonna?
Oh
take?
No, it was like Senate or something.
Yeah, it was like
that.
a Senate.
Yeah,
they were
Senate
talking
hearing.
about the mutant,
the Anti-Mutant Registration Act, I believe it was.
And then is that the scene where Charles told him that I'll always and I will always be between you?
That was the end.
And that was the end when they
okay. In this one, it just said, "What are you up to?"
Right.
And he says something. He because I just started watching it, and Professor X says, "I'm looking for hope or something." And,
because what are you doing up here?
Yeah.
He pointed at his head.
Hope, and Magneto says, "I'm about to bring you some.
Charles?
The only thing I ask you is not to stand in my way."
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ow. That delivery.
There we go.
Ow.
And then having those two actors
Sent
play
chills
those
down my
two
spine
roles.
just now, right?
That was good, man.
Al should play the next Magneto. Shoot.
I can see the helmet.
Yeah,
No,
man, those two actors were awesome. It was Ian McKellen and
Patrick Stewart.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect casting.
Shakespearean actors, and it's a very Shakespearean type story between the two. The Magneto and Professor X stories is very Shakespearean.
Yeah, what'd you think of the introduction to Wolverine in that movie?
Loved it. It's Wolverine.
Right? Was it Rogue found him, or Rogue just walked into
They bumped into each other
in Canada in one of the bars?
Yeah.
And she hitched a ride with him.
Yeah.
And then they got interrupted by Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Right.
And what
Sabretooth.
and in that first scene, it just, there was one thing I never knew about Wolverine, and it was funny because she actually asked something I guess I would have asked, like, she asked him, "Does it hurt every time the claws come out?"
Yeah.
And he says, "Every time."
Wow. Yeah.
I never thought of it to be hurting. Then when they came out, and he says, "Every time they come out, they hurt."
Right, because it's going right through his skin. Oh.
And it heals every time.
Right through
It heals every time. Yeah.
And then what it really was that Magneto was trying to capture Rogue because the machine he was building, because he was trying to induce mutation in everybody. So all right, you want to pass a law that says mutants are pariahs? All right, I'm gonna make you all mutants then. Right. So now you're gonna have to deal with this. Not a bad plan. To be fair, not a bad plan. He's like, I'm not gonna kill y'all. I'm gonna make you understand what it is to be one of us.
And
so
if you die.
Is that where Incredibles got its plot from?
Kind of, it seems, right?
If everybody's great.
Everybody's great. Right?
Everybody's great.
But and then
No one's special.
the idea is that it takes so much of his power to do it that it would kill him. So he's like, let me capture the mutant that can mimic other people's powers, have her do it, and she'll die.
Right.
So that I can rule over what's left. Great plan.
Great plan.
Right?
You need to stop siding with all these bad guys, dude.
Magneto was not a bad guy.
Yeah.
He said, remember, you have to look at it like this. Malcolm X, Magneto. Martin Luther King, Professor X.
There you go.
Right? So if you're going to call, Magneto a bad guy, just think about it. There are two different views of how to achieve a goal.
Two sides of the coin.
And actually, just remember that point, because in 3, there's a scene that I love I hated 3. But that scene alone that they reference draws to that point. And,
all right.
And it's one of my favorite parts that just for that part that they
you better quote it like you just quoted that last Magneto.
Oh, I am. But the fact that they put it in
Ian
3,
McCarthy ain't got nothing on you.
the fact that they put it in 3 saved it a little bit for me, because it touched on something that they hinted at but never outright said.
I really loved the fight scene between the Brotherhood and the X-Men in the Statue of Liberty.
Wait a minute, but what about the coolest scene I think ever in that X-Men universe is the train sequence when Magneto holds all the guns back at the officers that were trying to stop them.
Oh yeah.
Holy moly. That was the first time anybody ever saw that, and they did a homage to that later on in the first class group of people.
Homage.
Ooh, that's some French ass words right there.
Enchanté.
All right, man. So that X-Men the X-Men, that first one, man, ended great. I think what happened was
We were excited walking out of the theater. We
Yeah.
went to see it together.
It
We were excited.
amazing.
We were like, yeah, when's the next one?
That whole fight scene in the Statue of Liberty with Storm freaking out the Toad.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That Toad was weird.
Toad was weird, but I mean, he played it cool.
Yeah, he did.
The
whole twitching shit. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Oh, yeah. And the tongue. Oh god.
But that was Toad, you know?
Yeah.
That was perfect.
But Magneto was stopped at the end with the star of X-Men, Wolverine.
Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yeah, and I think that's when they imprisoned Magneto, and Professor X went to go see him real quick.
Yeah.
And we go on to X2, man.
And Wolverine packed up and said he was going to go find answers.
Finances for him because why didn't have his
Yeah.
memory and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
So then we go into X2, which came out a few years later, 3 years later actually. And X2 to me is one of the best X-Men movies. That movie was so good. I'll never forget the opening scene with Nightcrawler bamfing through the White House.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
good.
Dude, how amazing.
That was great.
He just boof.
Goosh, 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 goosh.
Oh my goodness. And then he had the knife in his tail.
I feel like
Yeah.
the X-Men movies had the best opening.
I feel like every opening was like had to be nuts.
They introduced us to new special effects as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
You
yeah,
know, because
right.
we really hadn't seen that type of effect.
And costuming, like the
Yeah.
makeup design, like to make Nightcrawler, like you
Nightcrawler,
could
how
see
about-
every inch of every
line,
scar, every
yes.
line, everything. In the,
How about Mystique in the first
Yeah.
one and the second one? Mystique,
Rebecca Romaine, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
she
Rebecca
killed
Romaine.
it, man, as Mystique. And if I'm
So
right,
before
go for it.
you
Yeah,
go on, you say she killed it because of how she looked as Mystique, as the character? Because I feel like Rebecca Romaine's Mystique had zero depth.
zero depth.
There was no.
I don't think there's any story for
They didn't
her.
give her any. What I'm saying is not her fault. It's
Yeah.
not the actress's fault. But they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't really write any story for her. Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, on the other hand, or Raven, because she actually went by Raven more.
Right, right.
They had a ton of story for her, and like her delivery of Raven and Mystique was
I think that was
incredible.
the better Mystique.
Yeah,
I
I like the look and how she played the role.
I
of
felt more
Romaine Stamos.
for Rebecca Romaine in 3. when they took her
Yeah.
powers. That's when I more respected her in the role of Mystique. But before then, I feel like it was empty. I feel like she was always just by Magneto's side.
Right.
And like she was just eye candy, like
Yeah.
for us to
Like,
see.
yeah, I'm
because-
in blue, but I'm naked. You know, it's like, I think that was really the whole appeal.
Yeah, but even her switching roles with the senator in the first one, I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see that until the second one where the eyes changed really quick.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, man. But
She did have that cool scene in the first one where she beat up the senator just using her
in
feet.
the helicopter.
Yeah, just using her feet. She like slapped him up with her foot.
That's right. Man. Yeah, man. And then we go into X2, like I was saying, man. And then with X2, this one was supposed to be against William Stryker, was it? The
Yeah.
general?
Striker,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what an amazing
Introduced
movie, man.
Juggernaut, right?
Colossus.
I mean, Colossus, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
we
thinking
introduced Colossus. I think we introduced a couple
Kitty
of them.
Pryde.
Kitty Pryde. Was it Dazzler, the girl with the yellow coat? Jubilee. I think we saw for the first time in there. But I mean, she never really had a role in those movies, Jubilee.
No. I think she was just kind of there as like a. As a
I think they were like paying tribute to the
Right.
comic, the cartoon, because the cartoon she had a bigger
Yeah,
role.
she was heavy in the cartoon.
But yeah, in that movie, this is part of where Wolverine goes to find out where he
The
came
Legend
from.
of Wolverine, yeah. X2, the Legend of Wolverine.
And it turns out he's an experiment from Stryker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stryker put the
Weapon
adamantium
X-
in him.
the Weapon
Yeah,
X project.
Yeah. And this one also, I'm trying to think of exactly what happened there. Didn't Stryker have a son or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the son supposed to be?
He was a mutant.
He had mind control powers.
Yeah.
Right.
So that
But
like
they were
his,
medicating him or something. To
yeah,
keep
and his
him-
like pheromones or his serum, his blood serum.
Right.
You could use it to control other mutants because that's how they ended up using what they used to control Charles.
So what was the plan for Stryker with controlling Charles? What was Charles supposed to do? He was supposed
Charles,
to find
since he can find all the mutants, so Stryker could know who all the mutants are and go round them up.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because remember, they built a replica
Cerebro.
of Cerebro.
Right. That's right. They did. They built that replica there.
And it's interesting because they spent most of the movie in one place, in one location, the one in Vancouver.
Right.
You know, where Wolverine's from and all that stuff. So I think that was really interesting because we've only really spent time in the mansion, and then they, correct me, destroyed the mansion, right? When they were
They
riding
attacked the
mutants?
mansion.
They attacked the mansion.
They didn't destroy the
Which
mansion.
was a
Okay.
cool
That
scene
was
too,
the
because that's
other-
when we
that
saw
was-
Colossus for the
Yeah.
first time armor up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was
then they
really
went
cool.
to the Weapon X facility.
Right.
And spent the majority of the movie there.
And they have Magneto help out,
Yes.
and then Magneto did the flip on him.
Yeah.
He kind of double crossed him at the end. Because then what he did at the end was that he flipped Charles to find the humans and torture them and left them like that. Again, great plan! If you're Magneto. I mean,
He pulled it off.
He pulled it off, you know what I mean? It's just, and then and then the dialogue between Wolverine and Magneto the whole time, you know, is just incredible because Magneto just keeps going at Wolverine. He's like, when you get to the door, what are you gonna do? Scratch at it with your paws? And then like to open the door, that's kind of exactly what Wolverine did. Like he couldn't figure it out, so he just like and turned it and it opened. So like
that
nuts.
movie ended with Jean Grey dying.
Right. Is now so
But
from
you
what
saw
she was
the shadow flying
a shadow phoenix in the water or
Yeah.
sun flare in the water.
because before she passed or before she let go,
she
of-
lifted up the X-Jet.
Yeah.
right,
So they could take off.
and she just started like turning on fire almost.
yeah.
So she had the Phoenix Force in
She-
her the
well,
whole time.
Remember, in that X-Men line, that Phoenix Force wasn't a space thing. It was
her.
a mental block.
Yeah.
It was her own power. She had that power as a kid, and Charles put a block in her head, so she couldn't access that power.
I'm gonna put you
Can't
on to
rock
something real quick. There is actual footage showing that. Do you guys remember when in the first X-Men, when they're at the Statue of Liberty doing that thing that's creating the mutants out of the humans? That thing, that energy surge, hits her, and her
Yes!
eyes light up. So they kind of like put it in it that's where she got the
that's-
Phoenix Force from.
I mean, that's what I assumed it was going to come from. The start of the unlocking, because then she started using more of her power.
Right.
In the second one.
right, because she was starting to feel weird in the second one also.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And then in X2, in the building there, that's where we met the female version of Wolverine, but not, what was her name?
Lady-
Lady Deathstrike.
Lady
Lady
Deathstrike.
Deathstrike, yeah.
Oh man,
Yep. Kelly Hugh.
that was so crazy.
That fight scene was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, her nails turned into the claws.
Yeah.
Oh my god, amazing, man. Yeah, if
And
you
when
guys-
she stabbed him up, she perforated him, bro.
oh god, yeah.
He was in the tank, right, when she was stabbing him too in the water.
But the crazy part is when he killed her, he just put more of that adamantium in it. It was coming out of her damn eyes.
I gotta say that was a pretty sad death scene. That was like,
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
her head hit the bottom, though.
you're like, oh man.
And
Like,
then
she
his
had
dialogue-
adamantium tears, like you said. You know, it's crazy.
His talk with Stryker at the end when he tied him up, and didn't he say like, "I gave you exactly what you wanted," or I made like
No,
you
he's
asked for this, something like that?
No, he said, well, you know, he said, that's just like you, Wolverine. You've always been a survivor, strong. You know, so now he's hyping him up or
Yeah.
whatever. He's like,
Yeah.
thought you said I was an animal.
Yeah.
So now you die like an animal. And then when he put his claws up under his
Yeah.
his armpits.
Oh.
So that was cool.
Yeah, man. So that was X2, man. And X2, they like the guys just said, man, they left off with us seeing that version of the Phoenix in the water and everything like that, which leads us to possibly the worst of the X-Men franchise, maybe up there with Apocalypse. I'm not sure which one. I think this one might be worse.
This
man.
one was worse, way worse.
So what actually happened with this one? Before we get into what happened in the movie, what happened that this movie was so freaking terrible? Did they change directors or something? It went to like Matthew Vaughn or something. Not Matthew Vaughn.
No, it was
They went to
Brian-
Brett Ratner.
Brett Ratner, right? Brian Singer was the one who started. it,
Yeah.
right?
Singer started it and it went to
Singer
this
started.
guy.
It was just that story was just. It's like, you know, it had levels of being successful, but they just didn't carry it out, and it wasn't thought through. And then I'd honestly say from the beginning of the movie, it was just a downward slope.
Yeah.
It was like in the first 3 minutes they killed Cyclops. He went to
Oh,
visit
yeah.
the grave,
I'm okay with that.
which I'm okay with it too. But it's just like if you were gonna kill the guy because he didn't want to be in that movie, that was the reason why they mostly did it.
There was a scheduling conflict. He was doing Superman.
Oh, he was
because his role in that movie was so much better.
Yeah.
So
you know what it is?
Followed Bryan Singer.
The Bryan Singer was working on this when he got the opportunity to get Superman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
He went on there and he asked him to be in that movie.
Yeah, as Lois's husband or something.
Yeah,
it was like from that, like it was just the point of which how they killed Scott Summers.
It was very weak.
It was weak. It was weird. It didn't really make a lot of sense, and then there was no kind of continuity with it. And then it went on and was just like, okay, I'm here. I'm gonna mess this up. Come with me or not, I'm changing stuff, and then it was like the whole get rid of mutants with the serum. The serum came out, and it was like two different storylines happening at the same time. They were going to connect at some point, but it was just like the way they were kind of going back and forth.
I thought that was a good plot device, the mutant serum or the anti-mutant serum.
It was a great device, just the story wise.
I think they were talking about if they had kept it just to the serum about them trying to use this on all the mutants, opposed to the Dark Phoenix story. You had those two stories going on at the same time, and all this crazy shit. Didn't Professor X die in this movie too? She evaporated him.
Yeah, she took him out too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Yeah, but at the end, remember in the cutscene at the end, he had transferred his consciousness.
I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they led up to that because I think he references it in the beginning when he's giving the speech. He goes, it's possible. But that scene that you were talking about just now, that Jean Grey kills Professor X, that led up to the line that I appreciated in the movie and kind of saved the movie for me.
Go for it. What happened?
Was the fact that after Professor X dies, one of the henchmen with Magneto brushes him off, like, oh, thank God, or good thing he's dead, or whatever. And they always allude to the friendship and the bond that Professor X and Magneto always had, but they never stressed it to the point where Magneto almost killed the guy because he says, I better, in essence, I better never hear something from from you about him.
No, so
he's done more for mutant kind than anyone else. So it showed the respect that he had for him.
The scene is Pyro. Remember when that little group of teenagers, Pyro switched sides him, and Pyro comes out. Charles wasn't dead yet, and he said, "I'll kill Xavier myself." And he said, "You won't touch Xavier." He said, "Xavier's done more for mutants than you'll ever do."
Yeah.
Or that
question. I'm envisioning Pyro in my head. Was Pyro Sebastian Stan?
He might have been.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
All right, wait.
I'm literally envisioning him in my head. And I'm like, wait a minute.
No, wow. Let me see if that.
We're gonna have to get some confirmation.
Aaron Stanford.
Man.
You almost had a hot take, B. You almost had a hot take.
He's trying to really make up for the last 3 weeks.
I had to come in strong on this one,
He's swinging for the fence.
I'm
I like
in his head. I'm looking at him. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
he does have the look, though.
Right?
He does have the look.
Yeah.
Does have the look.
Yeah, man. So let's continue down this fucking road with X3. Last Stand.
It did things that I liked.
But then that last scene too was weak when Wolverine kills Jean Grey.
Because he tried to give her the cure to stop it, and it didn't work, and so he had to stab her anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just seemed like the road of Wolverine.
Right. Sometimes people don't. It's cliche to say, but they tried to kill us with quantity and not quality.
Yeah.
Like if you said if they had just stuck with the anti-mutant serum and done something with that, we would have been okay.
Yeah,
but they tried to do too much, and then you had all these mutants running around all over the place.
The one in the woods, they did a lot of cool things in the movie, a lot of calls to characters you loved from cartoons or from different series. Like they had Spike in there from that newer X-Men cartoon series. They had Maddox, the Multiple Man, which I always wanted to see. They gave you the cool Pyro versus Iceman fight, which you always wanted. Yeah. So they give you a lot of stuff, but it just wasn't enough, and it's not what you needed. Like they gave you cool things, but it wasn't necessary. Like I needed story.
One of the things that you said, well.
Yeah.
One of the things that you just said, they gave you something cool that you thought you wanted, and then they did it, and it was just like,
yeah,
Juggernaut.
I thought Juggernaut was cool.
I'm so happy he said I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Like I love that he said it.
What is the story with that thing? Is that something he says in the comics?
It was one of the original meme videos of YouTube.
I know the meme thing.
It was just in the comics, they had him busting through the walls and this and that, and it was just one of the YouTubes where someone just went through I'm the Juggernaut, bitch, and so it became Internet Storm.
Right.
Because it became, like as parody videos started evolving on YouTube, it was one that just kept coming up. And so, like, it was really cool that it was in there.
Yeah.
And I loved having Juggernaut in the movie, but I felt like it was also another role that was another storyline role added that we didn't need.
Yeah, I didn't like the look of him, but
he was Charles's brother. He wasn't Xavier's brother in the movie.
I don't think so.
So it was just like another storyline character and two overarching storylines that didn't have to meet. Like unless Juggernaut found his way into the final battle, this and that kind of a thing, but like he was just there and he got caught and it was over and it was like, all right, like, he went through the walls as Kitty Pryde was trying to save that mutant. And so it was like, all right, was it Leech, right? Was the name of the mutant Leech?
I think it was one of them, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, all right. It's just it didn't work as a movie because that story was just too weak. If you were going to conclude the X-Men on any story, like, you could have concluded on Apocalypse. You could have concluded on Mr. Sinister. You could have included Savage Lands. You could have included anything. You didn't have to do... Okay, I'm going to lie to you. You could have concluded on the Dark Phoenix, but that story should have focused then on just the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, not all the
and
other
like the
stuff,
other, like... You had Charles and Xavier going at it, so continue on that theme, and then make it about the Dark Phoenix, and then...
Making about them having to come together to stop that.
Right.
Well, I don't want to talk about that movie anymore. So. Hey, man, so that was a bad one, man.
You asked.
I definitely did, man. And then, some time passed, and I think they were trying to decide what they wanted to do with X-Men, and they ended up kind of like doing a
Wolverine.
reboot, prequel kind of thing. No Wolverine, just, this new First Class here.
Okay.
Yeah, so X-Men First Class. Yeah, because you know what?
Well,
with the
Logan was in it. He told him to fuck off.
Oh,
yeah, he was in the car.
That's right. They did. That was awesome.
Because that comes up in Days of Future Past when Wolverine shows up trying to get him to do something. He's like, I recall you told we met you a few years ago, and I recall you told me to fuck off. So there it is,
man. X-Men First Class. I actually really enjoyed that movie, man. I thought it was really, really good. And in that one, they brought back Mystique, they brought back Magneto and Professor X, and it was really cool to see the start of how they became, because it started pretty much when they were either finishing college, Professor X and I
think he was doing his PhD,
something like that.
So it was he finishing up, but it was also during the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think honestly that movie was so good because it established Professor X and Magneto. And then it gave Mystique a storyline.
It focused on them,
and it really
the other mutants were really periphery. The story was about the two of them and Raven.
Yeah,
and I think it was great that you didn't have the Cyclops and the Jean and this. Like, we had these mutants, Banshee, that yes we knew from the comics, but they weren't big mutant names really so much. We had Havoc, but they changed his story. So I think that was really cool. That was one of my favorite X-Men movies, especially how they started off. Well, Charles wasn't in the wheelchair; he was walking around. This and that. We got there, but the way we got there through the Hellfire Club of all things too,
right?
Which was cool.
Which is crazy because I always associated the Hellfire Club with Excalibur. I never associated Hellfire Club with X-Men. But this movie brought them in there, and it was pretty cool. Was it Emma Frost?
Emma Frost.
Yeah, Emma Frost was in that movie.
But I never knew Raven had such a close tie with them, or was that new for First Class?
I think that was new for First Class.
Yeah, I think they just put that in there because they never mentioned anything like that with Mystique.
Her background is she was always an
assassin. No,
she was off an assassin, and she had Nightcrawler, and this and that. So.
Now, that guy, the red guy that did the same thing as Nightcrawler, he clearly is associated with Nightcrawler. It's just a different...
In the comics...
That's his dad, right?
He's Daycrawler?
Yeah. In the comics, him and Mystique get together, and that's Nightcrawler's father. That was the whole thing back and forth between them, because they were giving the comics nod that was the reason why they're fighting the movie, because they're supposed to get together and make Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I mean, in that movie, I know that's what was supposed to happen. It was the thing where they were either a part of the whole stopping of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
Because what was it? It's Kevin Bacon, right?
Kevin Bacon.
He assumed powers over the missiles, or he basically made it happen, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they averted it. and then they had that big fight at the end, and Magneto is the reason why Professor X is in the wheelchair because did someone shoot at Magneto?
He deflected the bullet,
and it hit Charles in the back.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty hard. And then there was who was the female FBI officer that was in that movie? That was
Moira McTaggart.
Moira, yeah.
Right, and then he made her forget everything.
Yes.
What was the reason why he made her forget? Like
Because
she was gonna write. She was gonna write a report about it all, and he wanted to keep everything secret for the.
he wanted the X-Men to be a secret thing.
Disappear.
Oh man, and then because if I'm correct in that movie, The First Class, Magneto and him were together creating that first class of X-Men.
Mm-hmm. They were the one recruiting together. They had gone out recruiting everybody together.
That's when Wolverine tells him to fuck off.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And then at the end, what makes them separate? Because I think that's
Different
at
ideals.
that point.
He deflected a bullet into his spine.
Well, they were having
Was it
different
because-
ideals because
I think Professor X was trying to protect somebody.
well, they're trying to protect each other, but then Magneto was like, just let them do it then. Like let him do what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
You know, let them have their problems. It doesn't concern us, like kind of a thing.
Eric got fed up,
Yeah.
you know, and he's like, we gave it a shot, and these people are never gonna accept this, Charles.
Right, because they had the different views and everything. So that's
Right.
why, yeah.
And no, I think they had killed some of the mutants, some of the kids, right? And then it's like if it infuriated Eric.
Right.
It infuriated Magneto, and that's what infuriated, like, because they were kids, and they killed him, and then he just went berserk.
All right. And you know what's pretty cool? Because without even realizing, the helmet that Shaw has in that movie ends up being Magneto's helmet.
Yeah.
It was the way that he could block, Professor
Professor
X
X
from reading his mind or going into his mind and everything like that. So
Yeah, that was cool nod when they showed it the first time. I was like, oh,
right.
I was like,
It's like,
all right.
oh.
I was like, so how's he gonna take that?
No,
Well
and
played,
from
sir.
from the original X-Men trilogy, that was a cool moment, a cool line too, when they ask they're walking into Cerebro or whatever, and they're like, oh, to Magneto, like, how do you know so much about this machine or whatever? Who do you think helped him build it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. So it was like almost like a homage.
Homage.
There we go.
Did we touch on the fact that Shaw was the one who had killed Magneto's mother?
Yo,
No.
yes, that was the twist.
I think that's what flipped him off, was that he wanted to kill the guy, and
Because Shaw
Xavier
couldn't
kept telling
age.
him no.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
He
wait.
was the one that was running the experiments on Magneto when he was younger, and he killed his mother in front of him to motivate him.
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
forgot that because he wanted him to show his power.
Yeah.
Wait, is
He was trying to get
that
his
why
power
he
out of
put the
quarter
coin
through his head.
Yeah,
Oh, brutal! That just came back to me just now.
yeah.
Oh my god!
Good job, Al. I
Al.
completely forgot that.
I was
man.
on it.
Hot take.
Hot take. Yeah, man. So that brings us over to the my favorite, besides X2,
Yeah, Days of Futures Past, man.
Days of Future Past. What a awesome movie, man.
They tied everything together.
And it wasn't
Both
just
casts.
a Wolverine movie, and it wasn't just.
But
the
it all
Wolverine.
hinged on Wolverine. Because Wolverine was the only one that could withstand being sent back 20, 30, 40. We don't even know how many years in the future. What did they say? How many years was it? Because it looked.
Because he was in the future.
Yeah.
And they brought him back to first class. I mean, by the way, they completely botched the timeline with all that shit, though. But we'll get to there.
But that's okay. That timeline needed botching.
For real, though.
The timeline
They fixed a couple
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
But Days of Future Past, man, was awesome. I think what was happening was was it the Sentinels?
Sentinels,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right? In the beginning of the movie, the Sentinels were coming to get all the X-Men, and they were down to their last stand. It was actually Magneto was with the team too. It was all of them together trying to
The
fight the
Brotherhood.
Sentinels.
I like in this movie how they had to go rescue Magneto from jail. Where in X2 or X1? Yeah, X1, they put him in jail.
Right.
So it's the year 2023, and they go back to 73.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's- Oh, wow.
50 years.
And I thought that was cool because that was the first time we saw Bishop.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bishop was awesome.
That was cool.
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple awesome things in this.
There was a
movie.
lot of nods, you know, the Wolverine Storm Love.
Oh,
That was cool.
that's right. They
That was
always
in there.
hinted that.
They always
hinted
had a
it.
hint at it. It was in the
Wolverine
comics
got
and
around.
that.
Like if you read the comics,
Yeah.
Wolverine got around, son.
I don't even understand, man.
He has like so many kids also, and he has in the comics he actually ends up killing all of his kids.
Dark Note.
Whoa,
Dark Note.
he must be from the DC universe.
Uh,
So dark. Yeah, man. So that movie was awesome because then they sent Wolverine back to kind of prevent these Sentinels from being, because they were basically, I think they were made to.
Magneto was gonna
They
kill
could
Peter
adapt.
Dinklage's
They were
character.
adapting to any situation.
Right.
So
They
because
could
they
handle
had
fire.
because
could
they had
handle all that
because they
stuff.
had Mystique's or Raven's DNA.
Right.
Because that's what she can do. She can literally take your power. She can take your identity. She can do everything. She was like, funny enough, she was like the perfect mutant,
Yeah.
or like the final, the highest form. Then
Yeah, I mean, look, that movie was just completely crazy. The only thing I didn't like about that movie was the CGI for John F. Kennedy.
No.
That shit was kind of.
I like that John F. Kennedy was a mutant.
Is that what they said?
Well,
They
because the
hinted
president in the movie was Nixon.
Okay.
But when they went to rescue Eric, when they went to rescue Magneto for being in jail, he got put in jail for killing Kennedy.
Right.
Whereas he reveals like, no, I curved the bullet. I was trying to save him. And then when they asked him, why would you try to save him? He's one of us. He was one of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
That I love that twist.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many conspiracy theories around, JFK's death and the fact that it's still based, many people believe it's still an unsolved mystery and things like that. Too many questions around his
Dude,
death.
we definitely got to do a podcast on conspiracy
I would
theories.
definitely love to do that. Like,
We definitely go do
we can
one of
definitely
those.
do that.
But
yeah, I love that nod to that, and that's what he was in there for, and they were trying to rescue him.
now, if I'm right, this is the first time we saw Quicksilver, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how awesome was that with the orchestra
Mm-hmm.
playing in the background, and he's just slowing down time, and he's just moving things with his finger. Just
Yeah.
Let's hear this here.
Because every other time that we've seen, like, let's say The Flash or anything like that, we don't really get to see them how they perceive it. We see them just moving super
just
fast
a freaking blur.
in
Yeah.
our speed,
Yeah.
right? So you just get that idea of like they're just moving super fast. But in his thing, he just looks like he's moving ordinary for him, right? And everything else is just
Everything
at a
else super
standstill.
Yeah.
That was like, it was really cool to be taken into those moments.
And I
Yeah.
remember the backlash everybody had with this Quicksilver. Everybody was making they were saying negative things about the outfit, the look. They were like, "Oh, it's gonna be corny," and he ended up being a scene stealer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everything that he did in that movie was just
Perfect.
freaking amazing and awesome, man. And that's how they got Magneto out of that jail. No,
Yeah.
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 And then also when he like puts his hand on the back of their head, they're like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "The whiplash." The fact that they thought that through
Yeah.
to say like, "Yeah," because their head would fly off.
Yeah, basically.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you accelerate that quickly.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
That movie was so good. The
But
storyline,
which
the
leads you to
acting,
believe,
everything.
has he done this before and it went badly? And that's how he learned that?
Right. Yeah, like a trial real quick.
Oh, lost a friend.
In that movie, he also acknowledged that he thought Magneto was his dad, or did he know Magneto was his dad?
It was one of the
They
jokes.
allude to
It
it.
was a
They allude
to it,
gag in the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Because when he's
But
showing
he
up-
acts like he believes him to be his father.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, because at the end when they're rebuilding, they say, "You gonna tell him?" He's
Right.
like, "No."
No. Anyway, man, that movie was just an awesome movie. The way that they worked everything out and they figured everything out,
My favorite scene from that movie was the scene between Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart when they're about to die,
oh yeah,
in the
that was
future?
tough, yeah.
and they say to each other, "All those years spent fighting each other," and then the other one says, I can't remember who says what, but one says, "All those years spent fighting each other," and then the other one says, my only wish is that we could have a few of those years back."
Right.
That right there was a killer.
That was killer. How about the scene where they were like all the X-Men were pretty much being killed off, But we got one of the things I've always wanted to see, which is because when I was younger, one of my favorite characters was Iceman. And when I used to watch the Spider-Man cartoons, how did Iceman become Iceman? He didn't turn into ice. He froze himself from the bottom down into a big ice block, and then he came out. And that was the first time they ever showed that, man. And I freaking lost it. They also never showed Iceman sliding.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. That was so amazing and so awesome, man. I really loved it, man. But then they killed him, too, so. But it was crazy, man. That movie was nuts. And is that the one where at the end they fought in Redskins Stadium?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
What was left of it?
Yeah.
Right? Because Magneto...
Magneto moved Redskins Stadium to the White House. He encased the White House in Redskins Stadium.
Right? Because Peter Dinklage was inside of one of those helicopters that was in there.
Yes.
Oh, man.
It's a crazy movie.
Yeah, really, really good movie, man. If you guys out there haven't seen X2 or Days of Future Past, out of all those movies, man, definitely got to see that one, man.
And then how the timeline like resets.
Right, because they found Wolverine in the ocean. That's how you find that Stryker.
It was Raven that found him
Oh, the eyes. But then again, that's the part where like it kind of loses me, because in the next one, it is Stryker who has him.
She took on Stryker's
look, right?
Yeah.
It's just that was a little bit crazy, and then the ending of Days of Future Past, the little post-credit scene, was the chanting to the pyramids.
Yeah, En Sabadur or En Sabanura.
Yeah, and you kind of figured that Apocalypse is coming.
Yeah.
And I was super.
They
hyped
set
for
up Apocalypse great. It was a great setup.
Beautiful
Dude,
setup.
it was an alley-oop.
Yeah.
It just didn't finish.
I thought also a great scene from that movie was like when Logan wakes up in the new timeline, right? Reset and everything where he's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And Charles says, "So you're awake. I think you have some questions for me." Because they explained to him like, you're the only one that's going to remember anything.
Right.
Him and Charles, because,
Oh, before we go on to the next one, man.
Oh, wait, and doesn't Cyclops come back?
Everyone's back. And that's why it was so great.
Yeah.
That's why it was so great.
It was beautiful, man.
It was beautiful, and everyone's back, and it was a happy ending, for it, and that's why you'll get to it. I'll save it.
So now we get to the last movie that not just came out. This movie came out 2016, so about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. We get to X-Men Apocalypse, man. Which, man, look, it was set up perfectly to be a great movie. Good villain. It had the backing of Days of Futures Past, First Class. So you just figured they're knocking these out the park.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hell happened with this one, man. It was just all off. Even from the bad guy.
Once you saw the picture of Apocalypse, it was like, oh, what?
And they tried to fix him a little bit.
They tried to fix him, and it was just like, you were like, oh, maybe this is before he gets his outfit, before he gets into his gear.
Right.
And it was like, no, that's it.
They're just not doing it.
Yeah, man. It really didn't come off like a good movie, but there's some things that set up for the next movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, the real setup at the end of the movie was for Mr. Sinister.
It really was. It was the suitcase, no?
It was the suitcase that had the corporation on it that Mr. Sinister's from.
Right.
And it was just like, oh, we're finally going to get Mr. Sinister. And it was just like, nah, we're going to get our Dark Phoenix. And it was like, all right. I was like, okay. Like, I mean, they did do the Phoenix Force in Apocalypse that kind of helped her beat him, Mm-hmm. So it was like, you knew it was going to happen because she was struggling with it at the end.
Right.
But it was like, you didn't want it to happen. I mean, we didn't even talk about this movie yet. And it was just like, nothing really happened in the movie.
Right.
Like, in the most honesty, the X-Mansion got blown up.
We got another great Quicksilver scene.
Yeah, with our 90s X-Men crew as teenagers.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool, actually.
Which was cool.
You know what? Not for nothing. The one thing I did like in Apocalypse, Quicksilver, not one thing, a couple things I liked in Apocalypse was the Quicksilver scene.
Yeah.
I like the tie-in for Wolverine being in that movie.
Yeah.
That was freaking awesome because he was wearing the Weapon X goggles and the helmet, just like you saw in the comic book.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool because they kept saying like, oh, what's in that cell is dangerous.
Yeah.
And you didn't know what was in the cell the entire time. And then all of a sudden when they opened the cell and he came out, it was almost like I don't know if you guys ever saw Terminator Salvation. There was no hint or clue that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the movie.
And then he shows up.
And then he shows up. It was that same freaking feeling. I was like, oh! And it was like he was there for that one quick scene where he just killed everything.
Yeah.
And he was off into the...
And then also to calm him down, it was Jean Grey that went into his mind to calm him down.
Sophie Turner, right?
And that sets the scene for X1 where she's the one in his head when he's at the
school.
At the school.
Right.
So at that point you didn't realize it all, but she's been in his head before and he's
all
remembering.
It's awesome.
You know, so it's crazy how they tied that together. So that was really cool, right?
Yeah, there was actually like I said, the movie didn't play well in total. I think the ending kind of completely killed that fight.
I think they had really cool nods.
They did.
You know, story was going nowhere.
Right.
But the nods were very cool.
Yeah, like that whole scene with Wolverine, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Seeing Storm enter the franchise from that angle was awesome as one of the Horsemen.
Yeah.
And who else was the Horseman?
Psylocke was a Horseman.
Psylocke.
They made Xavier one of the Horsemen.
Xavier was one.
Magneto.
Magneto.
No, but Xavier too. He was using Xavier to he corrupted Xavier as well.
Oh, I think he was the last Horseman.
Yeah.
I think it was the last.
Because he was going to transfer into Xavier.
Yes.
To continue on as him. Gotcha. Because if I remember correctly, Storm was introduced into that one. What do you guys think of Psylocke? I wasn't really impressed with.
I liked the character. I liked the look.
I liked finally having Psylocke.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she did play the part and looked like Psylocke from the comic books in the movie, but I don't know. I don't think she really added much to it.
She was just there, did her thing.
Yeah, and what do you guys think of the ending battle on that against Apocalypse Day? It wasn't
garbage.
It was just a bunch of shit just happening and just I don't know.
And I didn't understand why. Like, I really didn't understand why. It was just happening. It was like, okay.
You expected him to have more power and the fight to be of a bigger magnitude.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was not.
No. And there was a couple of things in that movie, like I said, that I liked. Another thing that was good was the Magneto storyline.
Yeah.
He had moved on. Mm-hmm. He had a wife, a kid.
Yeah, that was rough.
When
they killed his kid.
Oh. Yeah, man. The movie was tough, man.
Mm-hmm. And then didn't Apocalypse bring him back to Auschwitz?
That's where the ending fight happened.
Yeah.
No?
No. The ending fight happened.
No, but that's where he taught him like how to really use his power.
Yeah.
Because he tells him to put his hand to the ground and feel and really feel and all that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, man. I mean, and that's pretty much X-Men Apocalypse right there, man. And we go into Dark Phoenix now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, again, we're going to get that Dark Phoenix story, but I don't really know how it's going to play. I'm not overly confident that this movie is going to be awesome, but at the same time, I'm willing to give it all the shots that it has.
I'm really hoping.
Yeah.
You know, I want it to be a well-rounded X-Men story, and I want it to be great. You know, so I'm hoping for this franchise's sake, you know, that it has the ending it deserves. Because it started off great. Listen, one bad movie in the middle doesn't take away what Days of Future's Past was and what First Class was.
Right, they're always going to be fantastic movies, those movies.
So I'm hoping that this one, even though I feel like I've seen the entire movie in the trailers, I'm hoping what the end result is awesome.
Yeah, man. So, I don't know. For me, like I said, I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping to be shocked and surprised, because usually if you have low expectations, sometimes it'll just be surprising and be good to you. What do you guys think? Like, Sanj, like, what are your expectations here for Dark Phoenix?
I want to see a good story. Since the Phoenix Force is so powerful, I need to see the magnitude of the fight, or the culmination of everything has to be big.
Gotcha.
Right? I still am a little bit turned because of Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that movie.
Yeah.
So even no matter what happens, we know what happens after it.
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like when you know what's gonna happen next, and it just makes everything else make no sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, as great as this ending is gonna be, or can be, or if it is,
they die for no reason.
Everything happens.
A few years down the road,
Professor X has a nightmare and kills everybody. I just really wish they hadn't done that, because I can't unknow it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You never want to know it again?
I'd never want to know it again. That was not. That's really not what I wanted out of that, you know, Old Man Logan movie.
I got you.
I wanted Wolverine to get a nice ending that he deserved and whatnot. And other than that, it was a very good ending for Wolverine. except for that piece.
I gotcha. How about you, Al?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Again, especially after seeing the last preview, it restored my faith that hopefully they're going to do something good with it. But to Sanja's point, where's it going to go? Like, one, we already know they're rebooting. They're not continuing the story once it moves over. They're rebooting the storyline. So, like, it's almost like, okay, I'm going to watch it because it's an X-Men movie, but
they should have let it go.
What's it going to do? Like, this movie doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
So, and to your point, like, we already know what happens because Logan already told us that. So what are you telling us here?
Gotcha.
It was almost like, okay, you were having all this trouble. What's the point of actually releasing it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you pushed it back, 4 or 5 times?
Yeah.
Over
just
almost 2
like
years.
The New Mutants, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I understand now you got to recover your money, but Jesus.
Don't make it so obvious.
Honestly, from a story wise, they should have just stopped. They should have let it end at Days of Future Past, and that would have been a great ending.
That would have been awesome, exactly. But these studios want to make money, man. And I mean, this leads us to the last topic of today, man. Since it's the beginning of June, today's June 2nd. How I want to do this is June. There's 3 movies I can see every month, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So we already know Dark Phoenix is one.
Yeah.
So you guys got to choose 2 movies out of these next few movies because these are the movies that are coming out this month. We got Pets 2, Toy Story 4, Men in Black 2, Late Night, Shaft, Child's Play, this movie called Anna, which looks like a she's basically an assassin that works for like some kind of like underground FBI thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then we have Annabelle Comes Home, and then Yesterday, which is like this story about this kid who he gets either knocked on his head or something, and he comes up, and when he comes back up, the world never heard of the Beatles.
Oh,
so
yes, I heard about this. So he
starts he starts singing these songs that he knows from the Beatles, and everyone thinks that he's the creator of it. So I love the Beatles, so that's just one of the reasons I might want to see that movie.
Yeah, I actually want to see that movie because
just because of that, right?
Oh,
but
funny.
if you guys, like I said, you guys got to choose 3 movies, and you already chose one, which is Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
What are the other 2 movies you might see this month?
Shaft. Let me see that list again. There's a lot of movies on that list.
I would make
Pets
Annabelle
2,
Come Home
Toy Story 4.
Shaft and Toy Story 4.
I hear you. Al, how about you, man? What's
Toy Story 4 and Annabelle Comes Home.
Oh, okay. Brandon?
Yeah, Toy Story 4 and Annabelle Comes Home. That's definitely it.
All right. For me, man, it's definitely going to be Dark Phoenix. I got to see Toy Story 4. And
You seen
I guess I want to see Child's Play, but at the same time, not over Annabelle Comes Home. So it's like almost like a tie between those 2, but if I got to choose one, I'm probably going to choose Annabelle Comes Home.
I feel like Child's Play is going to be one of those I see when it comes out on DVD.
Yeah.
I don't have the appeal. Because like I get your Wi-Fi infected like demon toy now. like he can raise your thermostat other than just stab you.
Kids nowadays ain't scared of that. They'll hack him. Like
plug the USB and he's done.
I hear you, man. All right, man. Well, we're gonna call it a wrap right there. We just want to thank everybody for listening, and again, shoot us an email or contact us through our website, therealfanreview.com. And if you guys, like I said, like what we say, or you find enjoyment or you find entertainment out of the things that we're talking about, share it with your friends. Go online, go on Twitter, share us. Tell people about us. That way we can try to grow this podcast a little bit more. We always appreciate everything that you guys do, especially just listening to us. So again, this is coming from Hav.
And remember my offer. Remember my offer. You drop us an email. I'll send you a shirt with your name on it.
Oh man! Hopefully we get a couple of people requesting that T-shirt.
We'll limit it to the first 3.
Okay, there we go. Nice limit.
Still haven't paid mortgage this month.
So again, man, from Hav, Al, Sanja B, we thank you guys. And again, Real Fan Review on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. There's the other one. And go get it
on the internets.
All the internets, man. Especially our website. Al worked hard on that website.
All the interwebs.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.